Dear brothers and sisters, it's wonderful to be here. And I would like to welcome all of you who are here for the first time today. This has been a long period of separation. In separation, whether it be from our family members, whether it be from people that we work with, whether it be from people in our neighborhoods or our friends, is something which is very painful for us to deal with. And many of us in the last couple of years have felt their separation. Many children have not been able to see their parents. Many people might have had their loved ones physically pass away, so that physical separation is there for good. We might be working from home, so we might have been separated from our co-workers, and also there might not be any opportunities in our neighborhoods to get together. And the separation brings loneliness, and loneliness brings depression and puts us in a state in which we get despondent, and it seems like everything around us is never going to get better. And so during this time that we've been separated, it has been a very, very difficult time for many, many people. It also has been a time to reflect on ourselves, because now that we are not able to be with others that we were able to be with before, now we got more time to ourselves to think about ourselves. And so many people also during this period have been reflecting on what their existence is all about. And then as we start to reflect on our lives, we start to wonder, are we leading the lives which we should be leading? What is it that we can do to make our lives better? What can happen in our lives that will make us happier? And how do we put into play those activities which will truly fulfill the purpose for which we all are here? So the first thing that we start to dig in is, what is our purpose of life? Why are we here? And what are we doing? And this especially happens when we find that someone who we are very close to has physically passed away. Those are the times when these kind of questions crop up more. And as we start to dig into that question, we realize, as we do our research, go to our scriptures, go to our faiths, we realize that our existence, as we have thought of ourselves, has been thinking in the wrong direction. We realize we always thought of ourselves as the physical being, and that physical being are who we wanted to keep well. Since we all thought of ourselves as the physical body, so our general tendencies were to keep the body fit and fine. And with the body come our emotions and our mental state. So we wanted to fine-tune our mental capabilities. We wanted our emotions to be well. So we wanted to be loving and caring to others. We wanted them to love us. We wanted them to feel good about us. We wanted others to appreciate us. So our life was lived in a manner in which we wanted to glorify this body. If there was any pain, we wanted to get rid of it quickly. And when we started to look at how we lived our lives, our life was centered on the physical body. But then when we see so many people physically pass away, and we've seen many more in the last 2 years than we ever did before, the realization sets in, was there something more? What was it that kept that body alive? Because the body looks the same after physical death that it looked before physical death. And then as we start to do research in that arena, we realize there's a power that gives life to the body, and that's our soul. So once we realize there's a power that gives life to the body, then we start to think, where does that power come from? What is the source of that power? And then as we dig deeper, the realization sets in that the source of the power that gives us life is God, the Creator. And so then, as we get to that understanding that truly our existence is at the level of our soul, we are a conscious being, we are a power which is a part of God, but we are separated from God. Now when we realize we are separated from God, then there is pain in our soul. And that pain propels us to be closer to God. Now, why we got separated and how we got separated is immaterial. But the realization that we are separated puts us in a state where within ourselves we want to find a way in which that separation is gone. Now on our own we try, and we are unable to find any way and means of knowing God, finding God, being closer to God. And so I'd like to relate an incident or a story coming from the past, which really signifies how do we find a connection with God once that we realize that we've been separated. Where do we get the help from, and how can we be in the state where the connection is made? The connection is not only made, it's felt by us, and we then are able to lead our lives happily, peacefully, calmly, lovingly, and lead our lives as we should be leading. So this is a story about two farmers. These two farmers had farms side by side. And they were very friendly. One would go to the other farmer and would help that farmer. One would talk about, I grew this crops and they do well, maybe next year you should do that too. And so they had a great friendship. For 40 years, they had been great friends. And then some disagreement came in their lives. And so they disagreed about this and they disagreed about that, and they started to have arguments, and they got to a state where they weren't talking to each other. Now let's call these farmers farmer number 1 and farmer number 2. Otherwise you have to say this farmer and that farmer. So one day there's a knock on the door of farmer number 1. And he opens the door up, and there's a person standing there, and the person says, "Oh, I am a traveling carpenter, and I'm passing through this area, and I see you have a farm here. Is there some work I can do for you? I'm looking for some work to do." So farmer number 1 says, "Boy, he came at the right time. I have a job for you. Why don't you come in and go, let's go behind, let's go to the farm and I'll show you what I want done." So as they're walking on the farm, the farmer number one tells this traveling carpenter, he says, you see that farm on the other side? That farmer, who we call now farmer number two, was a great friend of mine. And we had a great friendship for 40 years. And then we had some disagreements, we had some arguments, and he started not to talk to me. And he got very mad at me as he took his bulldozer and he went to the dam and he put a hole in the dam so the water would come out of it. And you see this creek between the two farms? So he put this creek of water so that he could show me his anger and also put me in a state of pain. But he said, I want to show him who's boss. So I want you to build an 8-foot wall between his farm and mine so I never have to see him. And can you do that for me? So the traveling carpenter, who was a very good carpenter but also a wise person, said, yeah, I can definitely do that for you. And, it take me about a week to do this job. And so farmer number one said, there's no problem. I have this shed with tools. So why don't you go there, see what tools you have, what other tools that you need I might have. And let's just go, you can measure the thing, let's go and buy lumber and we'll go to the store and get the lumber and you can get started. So they go out, they get the tools, they measure, they figure out how much lumber and whatever nails and other things they need. So they all go out and get them. And by the time they do them, it's the end of the day. So as the farmer number one is talking to this traveling carpenter, he realizes that this person knows what he's talking about. And so he feels comfortable. He says, I have to go out for a week. And I'll be back in a week. And so please make sure you make the fence at least 8 feet high and make sure it's all very dense so I can see the farm on the other side and farmer number two can't see my farm. And he goes for a week. And now the traveling carpenter is working and working and working. He's working very nicely and he's putting things together and he's putting all his efforts. And a week later, the farmer number one comes back. And as he's walking towards his farm, he sees there's no fence. So he's getting upset. He's saying, this carpenter told me he'll put a whole fence and I don't see anything. And he's getting mad and he's getting angry and saying, boy, I gave him money, I bought so much lumber and there's nothing to see. But then as he gets closer to the house, he sees the carpenter and he's getting angry at him. There's no fence here. It's been a whole week. So the carpenter says, no, get closer, I want to show you something. So as he gets closer and closer to the stream, he sees a bridge. He's very upset. He says, I wanted you to make a fence. What have you done? But as he got closer to the bridge, he saw that the bridge was very beautifully done. The work was very intricate. The designs were beautiful. And as he's walking closer and closer, he starts to look at the bridge and its construction, and the construction was immaculate, that he started to enjoy that. And as he's walking close, he sees from the other side a person walking towards him with open arms. And as he's getting closer, he realizes that was neighbor number two. And as the neighbor number two comes on the bridge, he says, oh, what a great craftsman you are. Not only did you build this nice bridge, you also brought peace into my life. And so they both hug each other, they embrace each other, they start to talk about the good times and the pain that they've been going through of being separated. And as they're, enjoying their company, which they haven't enjoyed in a long time, and they're talking and they're happy to see each other, and they're happy that they're over the difficulties, whatever they thought they had. They start to talk about how good of a job this carpenter did. And both of them said, boy, we should keep him here. We have a lot of work that he can do here. But as they look at the carpenter, he's packing his bags. So they ask the carpenter and tell him that, we have a lot of work for you to do. And the carpenter says, I have many other bridges to build. And so that's the job of a master saint. The job of a master saint is to build bridges between our soul and God. On our own, we are unable to do that because we don't have all that it needs to make that bridge. And even though we might realize we are soul, we don't have all the capabilities to be able to connect with the Creator. And so when a spiritual master or a master saint comes into our lives, they help us make that connection. They have the skills, they have the tools, and through their love and through their grace, they open a connection which we have within ourselves already, which is a single eye, a third eye, a spiritual eye, a gateway to the Creator. But on our own, we don't have the capabilities to open this. It's also called the Dasma Dwar or the Chivnetra, this inner opening. And that is what initiation is all about. True initiation is the impartation of the consciousness of the spiritual saint to us, so that through that power, this inner door, the single or the third eye is opened, and then we are able to go on that bridge towards God. We're able to cross all the streams and all the oceans which are keeping us from God. And the bridge is the bridge of light and love. And that bridge can be walked on through the process of meditation. So meditation is a means by which we are walking on that bridge of light and love. And that process is what we learn as we get initiated. So as we learn the techniques of being able to cross the barriers between our soul and God, then help is provided to us so that we can reach our goal. This traveling carpenter, he left one job and went to another, made another bridge. But the beauty of the spiritual saint or the spiritual master is that not only do they make the bridges, they're always there to help us at all times too. So there are many manifestations of the divine that happen between us and God. And once we go on the bridge towards God, we also realize that there are many bridges going to God. And they all are going to end up in the same arena. And then the realization sets in that we are all connected through God, the Creator. And then as we pass through life, we then are able to take control of our egos. Our egos are coming because of our mind. Our mind wants to glorify ourselves. Our mind wants to put us in a state where it makes us feel we're better than everyone else. Our mind is trying to put us in a state where we feel we own everything, everyone should listen to us, and our mind likes to put us in a state in which there is no one better than us. And that is the cause of pain in this life. It's our ego which makes life difficult for others and for ourselves. It's our ego that keeps us from being peaceful, because ego brings in anger, ego brings in greed, ego puts us in a state where we're jealous. And so the ego is the root cause of all difficulties that we have in life. But once we learn the techniques of being able to still our ego, to control our ego, then our relationships get to be very calm, very peaceful, very loving, very harmonious. And when that happens, then there is quietness around us. And then it is much easier for us to go on this bridge of light and love. Because wherever there's commotion, there's turmoil, then we're unable to still ourselves. And when we're unable to still ourselves, we will never be able to walk on the bridge back to the Creator. If there's turmoil, all of our attention goes to still that turmoil. So our attention is always on the world outside. We're unable to get the time to focus within. And the key to our existence, to truly fulfill the purpose for which we've come into this world, is to be able to be with God, to know God, to experience God, and to have our soul merge in God. So that journey, which takes us from the physical to the divine, is a journey in which help is provided to us at each stage of our journey. And as we go on the spiritual journey, many experiences of divine light and divine sound unfold for us. And it is through these experiences that we have on our own. It's not that someone told us about something. It's not that we read about something. It's that we experience something. I think that's the beauty of our path. Our path is not saying that you believe this because we are telling you this is true. Our path is saying this is what it is, but you need to experiment. And need to experiment for yourselves. And you need to prove it to yourself. So this is the theory, and you do the experiment, and the results will confirm your theory. But you do the experiment. And so meditation is an experiment. If you don't do it, then no one can help you. But if you do it, and if you get the results, then you know that you did the experiment, you got the results, and that's how things are. So this path is always encouraging us to do the experiment. And so it's not saying do the experiment once, say do the experiment every day. Because then you'll know more, and you'll know more, and you'll know more. You get deeper and deeper and deeper on a journey, and you'll experience more of your connection with God. And this is why so much emphasis is placed on meditation on this path. It's by the process of meditation that we can find an existence beyond the physical body. Otherwise, I mean, we see with these eyes, we hear with these ears, we got these other senses. All we experience is just the physical body and all other physical beings there, everything made of matter. The key is to experience something beyond that. So if we keep using these physical senses at all times, that's all we are going to experience, the physical world. Meditation is the process by which we still these physical senses so that we can experience something beyond these physical senses. And this is why we find a quiet place, we sit down by ourselves, we don't change the atmosphere, we're not going to eat at that time, we close our eyes. So that by doing this, we've stilled all of these five senses which are taking our attention, which is the outer expression of our soul, and putting it into the world outside. So when we stilled it, it has no place to go on the outside. So where will it go? It'll go inside. But it's not as easy as it sounds. As soon as the attention goes inside, the mind says, aha! How can you come inside and not be bothered? It says, okay, if you're going to still all your other senses, I'm going to bother you. I'll give you a thought. So as soon as you close your eyes, you got all the outside things done. Boy, you're bombarded with so many thoughts, one after another, after another, after another. So the saints and mystics from the past who were researching in the spiritual arena, today we have all the researchers who are researching all kinds of physical activities. And the saints and mystics have been researching in the spiritual arena for eons and eons. So they all came to the same conclusion. They say, the culprit is the mind. The source of our distractions is the mind. We need to find a solution. So they must have researched over the years and over the centuries and came up with similar answers in many different parts of the world. Because let's not think that meditation is only like an Eastern activity. People sit in silence in all parts of the world, in all faiths, in all traditions. Whether they call it meditation or call it praying with attention or sitting in silence, they're all similar activities. Because they all came up with the same solution. And the solution was that the mind needs to be still. So how do you still the mind and what do you do? So use the energies of the mind. They realize the mind is like mercury. When you put mercury in a test tube, it's never still. It's like shaking. It's all moving. So they realize that the mind is very, very active. So there's no way of stilling the mind or closing the mind. So what is next thing to do? If you can't shut this guy down, you have to come up with some other solution. And so they came up with the solution that since we want to know God, why don't we befriend the mind and focus it towards God? Let its attention be on God, then it won't be able to send thoughts. So let's use all its power to focus on God. And that's where the repetition of God's name came into play. By repeating God's name, we're taking the energy of our mind and refocusing it from going to thoughts towards God. We do a mental repetition, not through the tongue. If we do it through the tongue, our ears would hear it and we'll be focused on the outside again. So we do a mental repetition, so our mind is focused on God. All this energy goes on God. It takes a while to get there. It's not that you come on day one and you sit in meditation and you repeat the name of God that you're going to get there. It takes time and practice. And with practice and with time, we get to a state where all the attention of the mind will go towards God, and we get to a state where there won't be any thoughts. And then, as we go through this practice, we will start to see glimpses of light. We start to experience the bridge of light within, the bridge of light and love. And as we connect with the bridge of light, then guidance comes in so that we can be uplifted into the regions beyond. Just like the physical region, there are many, many other spiritual regions. And so guidance comes to us on our inner spiritual journey. And as we go on the spiritual journey, every state that we pass through, it's unfolding of the divine treasures that we all have within ourselves, of the divine wisdom which is embedded within each and every one of us. It's not coming from the outside, but that's the experiment we have to do. Those who experiment more are the ones who experience this quickly. And this is why so much emphasis is laid on being able to meditate daily. That this is a process which you have to do regularly, day after day after day. And every day you gain a little bit, you gain a little bit more, you gain a little bit more. And your practice is getting better and better. So that um, the repetition of God's name that we all do is getting stronger and stronger, and we're getting to a state of no thoughts. The key is to get to a state of no thoughts. Every time we get a thought, our attention will go to the thought. But with time, we'll get to a state where there won't be any thought. We can close our eyes, we'll get to that state right away. And the beginning takes a long time to get there. And then, it's in that stillness that the realities of our existence start to unfold on us. And it is then that we realize the true purpose of getting the human body. It is said that it is only in the human body that all the faculties have been provided by us to know God. There are 8.4 million of species. In none of the other species that capability has been given. And this is why so much emphasis is placed on this human existence. And so the saints are always exhorting us to make good use of this golden opportunity. Because as a soul transmigrates from one existence to another, we don't know what's going to happen at the end of this physical death. And how many eons it might be before we get another human birth. So we have this golden opportunity to not only find the bridge, to get the guidance within, to be able to get off the wheel of transmigration so that we can experience our oneness with the Creator. It all can happen in the human existence only. And so, as we learn the techniques to meditate, as we do the experiment every day, meditation has been called a practice. Practice gets perfect by repeatedly doing it. It doesn't get perfect the first time you do it. That's why it's called a practice. So we practice meditation, and it's like an experiment. And you do the experiment, and you do the experiment, you get deeper results and deeper results and deeper results. And the results are then going to confirm to us what our true existence is and what is the relationship with the Creator and everyone else around us. So let us meditate for a few minutes. Please sit as comfortably as you can. Close your eyes very gently, just like you close them when you go to sleep. Your eyeballs should be straight, focus 8 or 10 inches in front of you. And as you close your eyes, those of you who have been initiated in the mysteries of the beyond, please do your Simran. Those of you who are new here, please repeat any name of God that you feel comfortable with. The repetition of God's name should be done mentally and not out loud. Right in front of you, light will sprout forth. Just focus in the middle of your experience. And whatever is right for you is going to be unfolding for each and every one of you. I pray to God Almighty and to the three great spiritual masters of past century, Hazur Baba Sawan Singh Ji Maharaj, Param Sant Kripal Singh Ji Maharaj, and Dayal Purush Darshan Singh Ji Maharaj, to help each and every one of us here connect with the divine light within and to experience the light in its effulgence. So we'll be sitting for a few minutes. I'll be getting you out of this meditative state at that time, and my best wishes are with each and every one of you. Please leave off. Please leave off.